A note. Following advice from work-life imbalance may lead to action being taken by HR, your family, the authorities, or higher powers. Welcome to Work-Life Imbalance, an advice show focusing on workplace and lifestyle issues. Any resemblance to actual advice, living or dead, or actual wisdom is purely coincidental. I'm your unemployed couch surfer, Frank Eastman.
And I'm your lovable office companion, Derek Lewis.
Today we'll be discussing looking for a job in the deep dive before we answer an audience question and an issue from the internet. But first...
So, I'm still very sorry that you got fired. we got so many people on Twitter that were like,
off,
"Oh my god,
fired, Derek."
Oh, excuse me, sorry. You got laid off. We had so many people on Twitter that were like, "Oh my god, is he okay? We thought y'all were just kidding." And we're like, "No, you actually got fired." But no, Frank is a cat. He will land on his feet and then go shit in a box. Like,
yes.
he will be fine. But before we started, I wanted to give a super special shout out to our very first donor, Chad Fackler. He's been a good friend of the podcast and has been so great to interact with, and we greatly appreciate his kindness and excitement. This episode is officially dedicated to you, Chad. We're also going to be posting a picture of him wearing some amazing work-life imbalance swag on our still name-pending donor wall on the WLI Cast website. We probably would have a name for it already if he weren't the first donor ever. So,
Big thanks to Chad.
Yeah, big thanks to Chad. So while we're on the topic of Chad, Chad's wife, Jen Fackler, is doing an event called Over the Edge for Victory, where they rappel down a fucking building, a skyscraper.
That seems a little extra.
Yeah, I agree, but like, that's what you got to do in this day and age. In the day of, or the time of Instagram and Snapchat and stuff, you really have to just pull no punches in order to get your message out into the into the ethos.
No ice bucket challenge, huh?
No, that was yesteryear. This year,
now it's rappel down a fucking building.
Rappel down a fucking skyscraper. But they're raising money for the Victory Center in Toledo, Ohio, which provides free wellness services to cancer patients in the surrounding areas. If you would like to donate to Jen's campaign, go to bit.ly/Jen Over the Edge. That is JEN Over the Edge, and donate to a great cause. If you do, you have our thanks and theirs. Down a fucking building, Frank.
I was gonna say, if there's a good cause for jumping off of a building, I guess that's it.
Yeah, I agree, but she has way more fortitude than all the rest of us combined to literally. I mean, facing your fears is one thing, but like just saying, I don't know.
If I tried to rappel down a building, the resultant friction from my gloves on the rope would cause me to burst into flames. As I scream, with a Wilhelm scream, plummet to the earth.
For like 50 stories too. Like, I'm sure, I don't know exactly what building they're rappelling off of, but it is a skyscraper, so it's at least like 20, 30, 40 floors. That'd be a decent while to scream on your way down to your inevitable death. Look, I do not mean for us to sit there and Jen, if you listen to this podcast, I'm not trying to scare you. I swear to God, I am not. I am merely projecting. I am projecting my own problems into your situation, and I am very sorry. You got it. You can do it. It'll be fine. Anyway, thank you, Jen. Thank you, Chad. And if anybody else wants to donate to us, that would be fantastic. We'll have some more information at the end of the podcast, but we will put you on the donor wall as well. If you want to send a picture, that would be fantastic. Preferably not the normal type of pictures that I receive. A lot of dick pics and things like that. Not really the brand we're going for.
Unsolicited dick pic is not necessarily, unless it's in a little tiny work-life imbalance t-shirt.
Okay, I retract my previous statement. If it is a penis in a very festive, small, or I guess it doesn't have to be small.
Mostly, I'll be just impressed that they got the printing to come out on such an itty bitty little package.
Those screen printers are often a lot, way too big for that. But no, we will be impressed by your ingenuity, but we may not post it on the site because it's not Tumblr. We're not like that. Anyway, Frank, I forgot we were doing a podcast here.
Indeed, we are.
Why don't you hit me with that daily stand-up?
All right, so today's daily stand-up is probably less exciting than people jumping off of buildings.
I did not mean... I know that's a tough act to follow. I did not mean to steal the wind from thine sails.
Oh, you didn't take the thunder out. So mine is about
Wait, I'm sorry. That sounded like a terrible euphemism.
Everything I do is a terrible euphemism, Derek.
Pardon me while I take the thunder out. Anyway, one day you'll get to do the daily stand-up.
So I was going to talk about two old men who escaped a nursing home in Germany.
Okay.
In order to attend the Wacken Music Festival, which is the largest open-air heavy metal music festival in the world.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, they ended up getting nabbed by the cops after the nursing home realized they were missing, and they found them at 3 a.m. at the festival.
Okay, I was about to say the important question is, did they actually get to go to the festival? I mean, get to is a strong word. Did they actually attend the festival?
They were at the festival when they were picked up.
Good. See, I feel that these are the type of heartwarming stories that we don't get to hear. And I also know that like other countries are a little bit different about like people breaking out of things. Like I know like some of the Scandinavian countries, if you break out of prison, like they're like, we get it. Like people don't want to be in prison. Like it's a natural tendency to break out of prison. So I guess that, this would be kind of the same situation. It's like, we know you don't want to be, locked in essentially a building with, a lot of other people that are, that are not doing so hot. You probably want to break out and go do your own thing. So I hope that they were not put on solitary confinement in this retirement home. But I imagine, I mean, just imagine if that happened here. Like it'd be like a fucking episode of Jailbreak. Like they send them back and put them under lock and key permanently. But so what was the outcome of that? Did they get like some high fives or maybe I
think everybody has been pretty excited about it. There was nothing to say that any of the musicians actually were able to take note, because this is a humongous festival. I'm talking,
really?
I think it's like 50,000 people.
Jesus
and in fact,
Christ.
I am surprised they managed to find two old geezers in the festival grounds at all.
That is a great point. I mean, because most of the music shows that I've gone to weren't festivals, but people didn't clear out right away. So I mean, being a festival, like there were probably people going to the wee hours in the morning and then some. How the fuck did they find two old? Maybe those were the last two old guys at the concert.
Maybe they were like, has anybody lost a pair of dentures while headbanging, and were pointed in the appropriate direction?
Yeah, did anybody go into the mosh pit and lose a prosthetic leg or some sort of ostomy bag?
if I know metalheads, they were probably like really cool to the old guys. So, and hey, it just shows that you can keep on fucking rocking no matter how old you get.
Yeah, that bodes well because I feel, with the exception of maybe, I don't know, I think I went to probably like 15 or 20 like hardcore shows before the age of like 25. Um, and I've only been to like 2 since then. So I kind of feel like I've hit the downward slope of attending metal concerts. So, maybe maybe after I get through this whole like being an adult thing, and I'm like, you know what I want to do now? I want to go back to metal concerts. It'd be great to be received back into the metal community. That'd be cool.
Yeah. And I mean, by then, my hearing's already fucking shot anyway, so it's not like I'm going to be doing any damage.
That's actually a good point.
It's like, at this
Because
point, metal's the only thing I can hear. It's like old people in hard candies. They're like, well, after a certain age, your taste buds and sense of smell start going, so it's like there's only a few things, hot, spicy food and Werther's Originals, that you can actually taste anymore. So maybe it's like that with metal. It's like, the only thing I can actually listen to anymore is metal.
Mm. Yeah, and I think you're right on another point of the fact that the metal community, there's some parts of the metal community that are a little bit divisive. Like they want to say that you have to be like a hardcore fan in order to be a hardcore fan. But by and large, like a lot of metalheads, kind of see their kindred or see their kin and are like, yeah, these guys are. I don't care who you are, you can come and mosh with us. That's a pretty heartwarming thing. Like, I think the most extreme version of that are the followers of the Insane Clown Posse. I think
the ICP folks, those guys are
what do they call them?
Juggalos.
Juggalos. That's it. I think Juggalos, they have formed a bond that really just kind of it kind of crosses all barriers between age and sex and race and all this kind of thing. Like it is actually once you taste, once you cross that barrier into being a Juggalo, you are embraced by the warm, loving arms of an entire community of people that just want
enjoy room temperature Faygo.
That is one of their core tenets. I'm not going to go too deep into the cut about their core tenets, but
no, I'm
it's
not
very
fuck with
heartwarming.
no Juggalos.
Yeah, I have nothing but love for the peaceable Juggalos. They have come to. I honestly, I think there's some sort of like in every city there's a signal that all the police chiefs have, so that they just like just shoot a spotlight of a hatchet into the sky, and all the Juggalos come out of the woodwork to help with whatever, oh God, the dam is broken. Call the Juggalos.
Yeah, you gotta love a group of people that sticks together that well, but I don't know if I want to call the Juggalos per se. Like, they might make the dam break worse.
Right.
I mean, they're trying to help, but they're a rowdy type of folk, so I could see them being like, I guess we got invited to this really cool swimming party.
Right. I mean, you kind of got to think about the tool for the job type of thing. When all you have is a hatchet, everything looks like a block of wood. So, they bring their hatchets and just start chopping at the dam. It's like, no, that's not helping. But, they're trying. That's fine. Not the most effective signal in the world. I guess you can have your discussions about the effectiveness of the bat signal, but I don't know.
But I mean, they work for Faygo and face paint, so it's usually pretty affordable.
Right, pretty affordable on that.
So looking at this music festival, it looks like one of the headliners is Judas Priest.
Oh,
which was
wow.
formed 50 years ago. So maybe the old guys broke out of the clink in order to make their way over and rock out to Judas Priest.
That would probably be worth it. If like the headliner was like Nickelback, I don't think I get it. They're probably not at the metal festival, but it's funny if you think that they are. If they were at the music festival, they probably would not break out for Nickelback. But so what other acts are there? What else we got?
Let's see. We've also got Danzig, Hatebreed,
Oh,
In Flames,
In Flames is
Running
good.
Wild, Arch Enemy, Eskimo Callboy. I don't know Eskimo Callboy, but I love the name.
One of these
So
is
evocative.
not like the other. Holy shit. Yeah, that's one thing. There is one criticism that I think is fairly sound, is that the names of metal bands, by and large, are not great. Like, I think by the 80s, they kind of ran out of all the good ones. I mean, you know,
They just range all over the place, you know? I mean, you've got everything from In Flames to, like, you know,
Eskimo Callboy.
Eskimo Callboy. I'm hard pressed to think of another one
That's the
a little
best
more
pull.
out there than Eskimo Callboy.
No, that is the best pull we're gonna get on that list. Yeah, but you said it was called the Walken Festival.
Wacken, Wacken. It's in Germany.
Mm. When you first said it, I was worried where you were going with this, because I thought it was some sort of like Christopher Walken festival, which I can get behind. I'm just like curious. It's like, what are the what do they call it? Conventions for Elvis impersonators. It's a global convention for all the Christopher Walken impersonators.
Oh, I could see the two guys break out of the old folks' home in order to go impersonate Christopher Walken.
It's like, finally somebody we can imitate.
And Christopher, I mean, he's at this point, I believe, approximately slightly older than Methuselah, and is still a much better dancer than I will ever be. So,
oh, absolutely.
Cheers to him.
Yeah, what was the video? I think it was Weapon of Choice by
Fatboy Slim.
Fatboy Slim. That the moves he was busting in there were pretty impressive. I think that if they had if anybody for any reason asked me to do those moves, I would just have to decline. But that was a pretty good music video. It was a very, very repetitive song, as is most of Fatboy Slim's repertoire.
I was gonna say, electronica is kind of like that, though, right?
Generally speaking, yeah.
I wouldn't know. I don't do anything that would be classified as fun.
I have heard that before. You have said that before. I have said that before.
Want to jump into the deep dive?
Yeah, let's do that. So I think this one is going to be a little bit more of a, we'll call it an open discussion topic this week. The topic for the deep dive this week is job hunting. Frank, you've been pounding the pavement a bit this last week. What words of wisdom do you have for our wonderful, wonderful audience?
I mean, I don't know about pounding the pavement at this point, Derek. I've already given up spending most of my time on the couch in my underwear. Watching Netflix. Honestly, I was kind of hoping that you had a line in on something, and you could help a brother out.
Oh goodness.
No, I mean, looking for a job is one of those things that you hope never to have to do after getting a job, and then invariably end up having to do again after you've got that job.
Right.
Or you end up wanting to. You're like, man, I really want to get a new job. I don't like this job. And then you start the process and you're like, oh yeah, this sucked. I guess I like this job that I already have. Okay.
Right. This is why I haven't left already. But I think you bring up an interesting point, is that there is a huge difference in searching for a job because you want to, and searching for a job because you have to.
Yes.
Because all, with the exception of the one I talked about last week, I have left my job after already having another job. All of my software gigs, I have secured other employment and then gone to work at a different company.
Well,
And
la-di-da, braggart.
I'm not trying to brag, Frank. I'm just making fucking conversation here. But no, so yeah, in all cases, I had already lined up another job, and there was this sense of maybe one, I had the sense of I have to take this job or else I'm going to go crazy. But for the most part, I did have this kind of feeling of, I know that I'm okay where I'm at. Like, obviously I don't love it for some reason. Like, there's some reason that I'm kind of casting a net and seeing what comes up, see if I can find anything else. But you have this sense of I'm okay, so let me see if I can find anything that is just strictly better. Whereas if you don't have a choice, not trying to be like in any way flippant about this, or like trying to be obvious about it. Like, it really had not necessarily occurred to me how much more difficult the kind of calculus was. Is that, do you take the first job that comes to you because you have to have one, or do you still have some leverage on holding out for one that you really want? Like, how do you balance that calculus?
And that's the math that you've got to do. Like, that's one, it's not very easy math. Two, I mean, we're in the city, but it's a relatively small city, and
Right.
while there's a lot of jobs in our particular industry, our industry is still small enough that everybody knows everybody.
Right.
So about 10 minutes after you get laid off, everybody is like, have you heard he got laid off? And immediately your leg to stand on in terms of negotiations is kind of cut out from under you, because everybody's like, hey, how are you doing? Heard you got laid off. Looking for a job real bad, ain't you?
I heard you desperate. I heard you hard up for a job.
I mean, working in our industry is also, I think, something of a special case, because it's very common for us to have recruiters,
Right.
both internal to the organizations and sort of private recruiters who are out there looking to fill positions or looking to get people into jobs,
Right.
that are paid for by the organization. So like, if you've got a recruiter that you're working with, they're going to try and get you placed at the organization, because the organization is essentially going to pay that recruiter usually a percentage of like your salary, which is a sort of a incentive to them to make sure that you get the most that you can, because they're going to get a vig off of that. But that makes looking for jobs a little bit different. Like, there's not a lot of pounding the pavement in this industry. It's more like,
Right.
I've got to spin up the recruiters, and recruiters are at their heart sales guys.
Right.
So they are real intense people. So I, like, the way I term it is literally, I'm like, well, I guess I got to spin up the recruiters. Because
Right.
it takes a little while to get them engaged. You got to start reaching out to folks that you know and be like, hey, so I'm in the market, need to find a new position, wondering if you had any openings that you were looking to fill anywhere. But once they've, once the blood's in the water,
Right.
then they get to work.
And it's kind of funny that we've talked about the fact that, at least in our city and our industry, there are a lot of like overlapping lines that whenever somebody gets laid off from company X, like, lots of recruiters from 5 or 6 other companies will kind of get a line dropped, either whenever, I know that when you got laid off, essentially the moment you told me, I literally sent my recruiter from my company an email that said, Frank is a free agent. We've got an opportunity here. And, that's one way of getting the information to the recruiters. But I am surprised at how many, because I think before I got my current job, I guess I had sent an email to some recruiter that was in state, that was, essentially in the area. And all of a sudden I started getting calls from recruiters out of state.
Oh, yeah.
How the fuck did they get that information? Like, what is there some sort of like dark web database for people looking for software jobs? Like, how does that happen?
I was in the wind for 2 days, and I got a recruiter from Irving, California,
Oh, wow.
who was like, "Would you be interested in this position that is not actually suited to your skill set at all?" And I'm like, "That's a long way away from here."
Right.
To ask me if I want a job that, if you looked at my resume, you would probably see I'm not necessarily suited to or qualified for.
Right. I got one like that a few months ago, and it was while I was still kind of transitioning to this new job, and I forget what the actual role was. I think it was a DevOps job, and I'm a software engineer, and DevOps is an incredibly important part of the overall landscape of providing software, but it's not necessarily the same thing. And I've done some DevOps, but those skills don't necessarily translate. I mean, DevOps professionals do certain things extremely well, and software professionals do certain things extremely well. And one of the things that both of them do really well is piss the other one off, which is not marketable, but it is definitely something that is certainly present. But they were like, "Hey, do you want to like go to Texas or something and do DevOps?" I'm like, "No to both." No offense to Texas, but the thing is, like, if I move out of state, it will not be
I
a
will
metaphorical.
not do it in a car. I will not do it quite that far.
it will not be a metaphorical or literal lateral move. Like, I will have to go further north, because if I'm leaving my home domicile city, I want to make sure I go somewhere that is further away from the fucking sun. Like, I'm not going to someplace that is of a hotter climate than the one that I'm currently in. Because it is nigh impossible, unless it is like, the fucking equator. But I want to go someplace that is, far further north. So no, I would not have taken that. And I haven't gotten recruited by anybody or approached by anybody in the north. Like, all of the ones that have recruited me have been in, Texas, Arizona, Louisiana, Florida, stuff like that,
That's
Atlanta,
because they're
Georgia.
looking. Because I mean, there is a fairly significant brain drain towards the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast in general.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of the large, Amazon, Google, Hulu,
Right.
Netflix, everybody is out on the West Coast, and those jobs are very, one, they're very lucrative. Two, they are very prestigious for people. And
Right.
so
Absolutely.
you've got, anybody who is a hot shit software developer, out here by us is to some extent looking to, like, I can be a big fish in the small pond here, or I could be an even better paid small fish in the big old ocean.
Which is not necessarily a terrible thing. And this, I guess this could kind of go to a getting hired or job hunting discussion. But one of the things that, as a software developer, like you said, those, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, like, those type of jobs are somewhat dream jobs in a way. They are certainly prestigious. They're certainly, if somebody leaves your company to go to Google, you're like, "Oh, wow, that's that's significant." Like, that is crazy that they survived the fucking selection process, because it definitely is extremely rigorous and time consuming and soul crushing, because they are they are not going to take people that are less than the best. And, in order to do that, they have to send you through 10 rounds of interviews, which are extremely, extremely, it's difficult. Honestly, you may be in a better position if you've already been laid off from somewhere, because then you have the time off to go. Like, that is,
I've got the free time on my hands to interview at Google.
right. But some of the problems with going to a place like Google or Amazon is that, there aren't, I mean, I don't know any percentages, but there aren't a lot of developers that make their entire career at those places, because they are,
Oh yeah, no.
I mean, they are high intensity. Yeah, they literally like will take developers and just run them ragged for a year or two, and then they'll go somewhere else. Now, that's not necessarily terrible for anyone, because the developer now has, Amazon, Google, whatever, on their resume now, which will be a, huge mark of pride. It'll be, a huge boon for anybody else looking. It might possibly exclude them from a couple things, because if you want to move to like a smaller town and they see some hotshot that worked at Google is coming to interview at their company, they may be like, I mean, we can't possibly
afford that guy.
Yeah, you can't afford that guy. So before they even give you an opportunity to take that, you get essentially tossed out the door, which not great. And there are lots of other things that could put you in that same category, like having too much experience, or having too good of qualifications for the job. That is something that happens occasionally. Hopefully, essentially the point of this part of it is that when you're job hunting, one of the most important things you can do is to make sure that you are not just a piece of paper in front of somebody. Make sure you're not just an email or a cover sheet or something like that. Getting to talk to somebody is one of the most important things to job hunting, because I mean, I have worked and reworked my resume 30-40 times. Like, I've only been in the industry for 10 years, and I've reworked my resume that many times. And each time, somebody will tell me, or each time I'll go and interview, they're like, "Oh, we saw this in your resume and we didn't really think, and this is how we took it." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's not really the way I intended it for it to be taken." Then you rework. If somebody just gets your resume out of the blue, there's not a whole lot. I mean, they're not going to get the intricacies of what something means, and it may mean something different to them than it did to you. So, being able to talk to these people and actually talk to recruiters and talk to, management, or, be great if you knew somebody at the company, but some way to get a human voice.
The way that works, though, is literally over 60% of all jobs are gotten because you know somebody that already works at the organization.
Right.
And that's pretty much across all disciplines and across all markets and fields. Is you've already, you've got someone on the inside,
right,
who can, Derek, put in a good word.
Uh-huh.
and they might be able to, get you past a couple of those gatekeepers.
So before you
Derek,
continue, I do want to discuss one thing. So how do you handle if somebody's applying for your company that you really don't want to work for your company? This is unrelated, I promise. But
it's pointed, isn't it? Let's see how it is, Derek.
So, okay, let me
actually
go back.
Happened to me before.
I was going to generalize and ask if you had an instance where you were hunting for a job, you knew somebody at the company, and it actually held you back.
Oh, I haven't had that situation happen to me. I've had the reverse happen to other
being on the
people.
other end, right?
Yeah, where someone is like, "Oh, hey, I noticed that this person has on their resume that they worked with you at such and such. How were they?" And my response is like, well,
it doesn't feel great to kind of sweep the leg out from under somebody, but I too have had a couple of instances where I worked pretty closely with the person, and it may not even be like a skill thing. It may just be like an emotional chemistry, or that sounded weird.
Yeah, well, sometimes you just don't get along with anybody.
Yeah, it might just be like a personality thing. Like they're just not going to mesh well with the team. And that's not, like I said, it's not an intentional dig against them. Maybe I'd say, hey, they're not right for our team, but it's not that they're not right for any team. So
Well, it was worth a shot anyway.
I'm not gonna sweep. I'm not gonna sweep the legs, Frank. I will pass. I will get my people in touch with your people, and see if we can't work something out.
My BP card has stopped working, so I think you're gonna have to push the button, and we can take the elevator down and kip on over to the bodega and pick up a sixer of natty ice.
No, Frank. Instead of that, I mean, look, you are my guest. We are. I'm taking you on the tour of the new building that you might be working at, so you can go with me to accounting, and you can discuss the terms of your employment.
That sounds real nice, Derek. That sounds real nice.
We'll see what we can do.
All right, want to go into the review retrospective?
Let us do that. Time for a weekly dose of listener praise.
A little real life, a lot of fun. 5 stars. IQ Sam. There's some great chemistry here. Both hosts are a lot of fun. I like how they touch on real work-life issues and inject their own perspectives on them with just the right amount of humor. Good job, guys.
If there's anything I'm good at, it is injecting my own opinion onto a topic. So I'm glad that I could provide that service.
Next up, Original. 5 stars by Joel Weckerly. Nice back and forth between Frank and Derek. Love the concept. Officially subscribed. That's right, Derek. That's like our second fan.
Excellent. Once again, I don't know who that is, and I am so thrilled.
I'm quite enjoying it. It's very interesting. Like I was not necessarily expecting, and we'll go into Truth Town for just a minute. I was not expecting there to be any sort of outpouring of sympathy when we sort of released an episode about me getting laid the fuck off.
Right.
Like I kind of see doing the podcast, like I enjoy doing the podcast, and I enjoy doing the podcast as well as I can. Like that's my goal.
Yeah.
But I don't really necessarily see it as like I could be putting it out into the ether.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. Like that's a thing that I specifically I'm not in this for the fame or the money or anything like that, because there's
that's
no
really
fame,
fucking
there's no
good.
money.
That's
yeah, it's a good thing that I'm not in it for the money, because
with the exception of Chad, it has been a loss.
but that's fine. And so I was very surprised when there was an outpouring of sort of sympathy on Twitter and everything. It almost like my heart grew 2 sizes that day.
Not 3, just 2. We're not
just 2. I'm not the fucking Grinch.
Right. There's a lot more work to do with you. Yeah. but thank you all. Yeah. Thank you all for the reviews, and keep them coming. All right, Frank, roll that theme music. What? No lip biting or inappropriate comments?
I don't have it in me right now, Derek.
I'm
like
the job hunt's taking it out of you.
Job hunt's taking it out of me, man.
You got to save all your lip biting for the in-person interviews.
I'm mostly just like, I might just sing Hard Rock Candy Mountain.
I know what you're referring to, but
it's a Depression era hobo song.
Okay, I did not know that bit of context. I'll put that in my pocket to never use again.
You never know when you're going to have to haul out Depression-era hobo traveling songs, Derek.
I think I'm a little further from it than you are, though.
Just get to the indie podcast shit.
Gather round, kiddies, let me spin you a tale of audio adventure from two fat guys so pale. We found these shows and we laughed till we pooed, and we've got a feeling that you'll like them too. The Indie Podcast Corner.
It's time for the Indie Podcast Corner. In this segment, we take a few minutes to tell you about a new podcast that we've been enjoying that we think you'll enjoy too. Our featured show... Hold on.
See, the devil got your tongue because you've been saying wicked things, Derek.
Yeah, it knows I've been talking shit about you. Our featured show this week is the Cinematically Correct podcast. The hosts are Tyler and Shay, and it's a movie podcast by a couple who just got engaged like last week. So congratulations, guys.
And they're doing a podcast together?
It's weird. You'd think that
that's going to be a short marriage.
Well, their relationship started, they were already together and they started the podcast, and during the podcast they got, engaged. That's great for them, but not the expected outcome. Like, their relationship got stronger with the podcast.
How does that work? Because we're like cats and dogs over here.
I agree. I mean, I left the company that we were at together because I had to get away from you, and lo and behold, you try to follow me. So they just got engaged. They disagree on a lot of things that have to do with movies, and they watch and discuss movies with the expected outcome of, you guessed it, disagreements. They're both very funny, and their discussions are very lively. Chances are, at least Tyler, probably Shay, were on a debate team at some point. Pretty sure any argument I was in with them, I would lose. So I will not be arguing with them on Twitter.
They also my knife. I'm gonna go looking for them.
If you want to take the reins and go toe to toe, that is perfectly fine. Fuck it. We can set up a guest spot to where it'll be the both of us, hosting on their podcast or coming onto our podcast.
And they can pick me the fuck apart. I will stand up and walk over and then limp back to my own podcast.
They've also started doing some great kind of short YouTube videos, like the recent video where they compete against one another to pronounce Icelandic words the best. I will say, yeah, that's the only one I got. I will say it was brutal and it was close, but Shay did win. And then they inflict punishments on one another, and then they film it. For the last one, Tyler lost the Icelandic words challenge, and he had to film himself doing a kickflip on a skateboard.
So what you're describing is now this has become the next installment of the Saw franchise, right?
Do you want to play a game? The loser has to do a kickflip.
Oh, no, but
that's how I die horribly.
I used to skateboard, so I used to try to skateboard. There is a video that exists somewhere on a VHS tape of me essentially trying to jump up onto a cooler, that you put some drinks in, and I clip the top of it and just fucking beef it right on top of the cooler. It was, oh my god! One of my friends.
That's on YouTube somewhere, right?
No, I wish it was, but he actually lost the VHS tape. I promise I did not burn it in some sort of dark ceremony in my backyard. But no, I wish I could find it because, like, see, him showing that to other people, including an entire room full of students in the class that we were in, that built a lot of character in me, Frank. And you know what? I've thought I'd like to do
this
that.
This is Who Hurt You, isn't it?
It didn't kill me. It just made me stronger. So,
but it killed him. Saw 14.
I mean, at this point, they're running out of ideas, so they might as well. It's a great time, a great show. They are at Cinematically C, Cinematically the letter C, on Twitter. Go check them out.
What Does It Matter podcast, a non-topical solution for your topical problems. Movies, pop culture, music, foul language, you got it. WDIMpodcast.blogspot.com. Also follow us on Twitter at WDIM Podcast. The fun never ends, and it's something real.
I really
right,
want to find
Derek?
that video. I really desperately want to find the video of me, like, just eating shit on top of that cooler.
I was gonna say, just eating shit on that cooler, huh?
And, like, the sound effects are perfect because I'm like, you just hear me kind of like, because they call it an acid drop. Like, basically, you just kind of like hop on top of something and then you just jump off of it and kind of throw the skateboard underneath you. I didn't even get that far. Like, the skateboard part was irrelevant. Like, I just couldn't jump on top of the fucking cooler. And the sound effects that came out of my body, it was like thump 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 thump. It was so beautiful. It was my least proud moment, but also one of the few pieces of video that exist of me. You know, it's really sad. There's only, like, I would say there's probably 10 videos total of existence with me in it. 2 of which are musical theater, and 1 is me just eating shit on top of a cooler. 30% of my body of content in the world is subpar, I gotta say.
I mean, people beefing it is pretty much like 15 to 20% of the internet. The rest of it's cat videos. See, here's the thing. Like, you know, we might want to diversify the brand a little bit. Like,
Okay.
you know, the other podcasts, they got into making videos and stuff. And here's the thing. Like, cat videos are big. And I have a lot of cats.
You have what some might describe as a plethora of cats.
Too fucking many cats is how many cats that we have here.
Too many cats, too many cats.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Too many cats, too many cats. Oh.
All right, Derek, you want to get to an audience question?
Yep. Show me what you got.
Here's a question from recent news. What would you do if, like Chris Hardwick, your ex came out with some of your bad behavior and it imploded your career? Would you fight back? Or would you slink away and try to reinvent yourself? Sent in by Yes But Why.
Wow. This is a loaded question.
See, this is what happens when we ask for audience feedback, Derek.
I'm regretting at least one thing. So the thing is that what do you do? For me, honestly, the worst thing that somebody could come in and say about me that would wreck my current career is that, like,
The thing that's most likely to wreck my current career is this podcast.
yeah, that is a close second. But what would actually probably wreck my career is if somebody started spreading the rumor that I really liked VB6 or VB.net. That would probably put me on the short list to No Job Town. But yeah, I don't know. I think I would have a hard time reinventing myself. Like, the thing is, there are two things that I have found in my life that I am passable at. One of which is, making some people laugh, like not everybody, but making some people laugh. And the second of which is software development. Like, beyond that, there's not a whole lot of reinvention. Like, there's no reinventing this. There is scrapping this project, like scrapping this entire person and just going on the next one. Like, we're talking reincarnation here. Like, if I would have to be a completely different person in order to reinvent. What about you, Frank?
I mean, yeah, I think I would have to become Hank Westwoman and new Social Security.
I'm sorry, I can't get over. What do you say, Hank Westwoman?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
that would definitely be my no one would ever figure it out. It's the exact opposite
I've got to do
of
some
my current
Googling.
name.
I feel that wasn't just a random poll. Like, that feels too prepared to be random. I'll just make a note for later. Don't worry about it.
I may or may not have secret identities hidden throughout, so that if anything blows up, I can just throw a smoke bomb and step into a new persona completely.
And the good part about it is that you have East and West in those names, so that you can tie them to a very clear geographical location, so that you can keep them separate in your mind. That is
Exactly. That's the key, is to be able to key on to something and make that switch internally.
That is a remarkably that is a very smart way to do it, and I applaud you. Although okay, we got Frank Eastman, Hank Westwoman. Okay, well,
But yeah, I don't like this. This is a difficult and sort of hard question to come across. I think the good news is I haven't been a shitbag to anybody.
little Prima strategy guide for not being called out on doing shitty things is to not do shitty things.
I got the cheat codes to that one. And
got the game fucking genie for that one.
it's down, down, left, left, up, up, right, right. A, B, A, C, A, B, B, don't do that shit.
Be an okay fucking person. Oh.
Be a human being. That's a good start. And hey, I get it. I have trouble with that one sometimes.
But you're not necessarily bad in a way where people would, like, I don't know. It has no, like, sexual overtones to the way that you are bad to people. Like, it's more of an innocent type of bad. It's like, oh, Frank threw me out a window again. Ha ha ha. What is it? It must just be a regular Thursday. Right. Nobody is safe from being fenestrated by Frank. Or defenestrated, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, fenestrated is possibly where I toss them into a window.
Is that actually so defenestration is being tossed out of a building through the window?
That's correct.
Is fenestration the act of being thrown into a building through the window?
I gotta say, Derek, we've cut too deep, and I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and say yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
all right.
It's definitely that one.
I mean, it makes most sense. Like, it could be kind of like the etymology of the word could have nothing to do with, like, the D in front of it, the DE, which normally is the opposite of something. So, in lieu of actual knowledge, we will say that fenestration is the act of throwing somebody into a building through the window.
I mean, to be honest, it's probably more applicable these days. Like, defenestration has kind of gone out of style. But all kinds of things still get fenestrated. You know, baseballs, the occasional badly tossed newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty useful term.
I agree. Whenever you said that defenestration was no longer popular, I was going to make some sort of terrible joke about some sort of terrible wordplay about how it had gone out the window.
I see. I see your joke, and I raise you
Uh-huh.
an issue from the internet.
I believe that is our best play here. All right. For the issue from the internet, this one is by user Christ on a Cracker.
That's a pretty good username. I wish
It's
I could have gotten that.
It's not bad. In parentheses, out beside it, it says, flip dip skip nip. I will repeat that. Flip dip skip nip. A lot of sibilant letters and plosives in there. So I hope you all enjoyed that.
I mean, it's a thing that you do in Iowa. So a lot of people outside of the Midwest might not have heard the skip dip nip flip.
So what you're saying is I should have repeated it a third time so that you could properly execute the aforementioned joke. All right, so the question is, my boss does this weird thing. So I've noticed my boss has some weird mannerisms. He acts like he's upset, but he isn't most of the time. He'll call me over and be like, Richard, did you finish this? If I say yes or no, the response is similar. It's just a stern, good, or okay, get on that. I was telling him have a good weekend, as I do every Friday. He said, okay, bud, you too. 15 seconds later, he says, Richard, be safe. What is this? And to top it all off, my name is not Richard.
So this guy is definitely the boss that I aspire to be. Because I mean, that's the ultimate power move, is just to continually call someone by an incorrect name,
Right.
daring them to correct you at some point.
So my question is it that his boss doesn't know his name? Well, okay, no. Back up. So the question is the boss using an intentionally different name for every person in order to do a power play, or because they realize they're failing, like that they are not able to memorize names very well, they just call everybody Richard. And then they don't have to remember anybody's name because it's like, oh, don't worry about it. He calls everybody Richard. That can get kind of confusing when you open the door and ask for Richard, I guess. But, yeah.
I was going to say, you can do that, but the way that I get around not ever remembering anybody's name is just with, hey, buddy, and the finger guns thing.
Frank, you gave me a lot of shit about the finger guns thing. You can't just pull it out as if, like, you invented them. Like,
hey.
Hey, did you do that thing I told you to do? I will say it is actually a lot easier nowadays. Like if you work with somebody, like, somebody's on your team or on your floor, or you interact with them ever, like, typically anybody that I work with, I've sent them an email. So, like, I know their first and last name. Like, I don't necessarily have to, like, have perfect recall when I walk up to them. But I can, like, check the Outlook address book and make sure that, like, okay, I'm not about to call them, like, Jeremy and their name is Steven. Like, I can do a quick check to make sure, because I am super paranoid about calling somebody by the wrong name. Like, I've worked around some of the people I work with. I see them every day. I say hi to them every single day, but I still have this mental checklist of, okay, I know their name is this. Am I sure their name is this? If I thought about it, to call them a name, I would call them this name. Am I sure that's the right name? Like, I have this, like, horrible mental cycle of making sure that I know the person's name. So
I know that to be a boss these days, you have to be too busy to use a computer or email.
That does
Everything
seem to
has
track.
to be done through your phone. Like, that
Okay.
suggests that you are so busy that the only way that you can get work done with as many directions as you're being pulled in is to do it via email. And so I could see where that little bitty screen could cause some confusion as to what people's names are.
Right. Yeah, because the search features on Outlook on the phone, not as robust, I will admit.
Exactly. And so it might just be that, it was like Richard was the guy below you in the email and he just got confused.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. All right, so the part of this that I definitely wanted to touch on is the fact that, like, he told his boss, have a good weekend, and the boss said, okay, bud, you too, and then he has a 15-second delay, and then he says, Richard, be safe. that seems so extremely dramatic.
The two ways this goes, one, and the more likely one by far, is that his boss is psychic
Okay.
and was warning him to keep him from accidentally, sort of, if he realized if he waited 15 seconds and then interrupted him, he would be a split second later getting home than he otherwise would be, and somewhere on the road, he misses getting into a massive car accident.
Right.
The other one that is far less plausible is that his boss is horribly socially awkward and gets caught up in his own head and is always very late to saying anything.
Right. So he's in this perpetual cycle of what do they call it? Stare or something?
Fridge thoughts?
Yeah, fridge thoughts or like stare thoughts. But like this guy does not have the self-control to not say them. Like if he waits long enough, like he'll have to like go chase the guy down in the parking lot to tell him to be safe. Like sometimes there is a amount of time that has passed before you can say something. Like if you're in an argument with somebody, they kind of dunk on you in the conversation. You can't just come back like 15 minutes later and like throw an insult at them. You got to do it in the moment.
Yeah, there's a 10-minute time limit between the end of the conversation and the closing of the window for you to make any clapbacks.
So I will have to push back on this a little bit because I feel like what this boss is doing is definitely weird, and I mean weird. It's an idiosyncrasy thing. I don't think that that's what normal people do. So I would say instead of a 10-minute window, I think it has to be a 10-second window. Because, honestly, if I was in a conversation and I knew that I had a 10-minute window, I would as soon as I got dunked on, I would go away and workshop something for 10 minutes and come back out with the most like serious, well thought out blast I possibly could. Or
this is how I win all my arguments, Derek, so I don't know what you're talking about.
But is it like a chess timer? That's my question. So if like does everybody have a 10-minute allotment of time that they can step away to workshop, reposts in the conversation, or is it like you have every time you have to go away, you can come back up to 10 minutes later? Because if it's like a chess timer thing, then somebody uses their entire allotment of 10 minutes in one fell swoop, you got them on the ropes because like all of theirs,
then they don't have any
instant.
more time left.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's how it goes. I mean, you burn them to the fucking ground, and you've got them if like it takes them 5 minutes to get their reply ready.
Oh my God. I actually want this to be a thing. I want this to be a competition. Kind of like what was that one that they hosted? It was like a Yo Mama competition or something. Oh God.
I was going to say, I think the rap community has already beat us to it and a lot cooler.
I mean, sure, But the thing is that theirs is built on like on speed of response, on coming up with something instantly and then delivering it and see who can do the best one. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like coming up with the best crafted insults or retorts, responses that you possibly can, given within a conversation, a 10-minute time limit total. So I mean, how creative could your comebacks be if you knew you had up to 10 minutes total in this conversation to go away and come away with something interesting?
I'm picturing this is already going to go over really big on Twitch.
Oh, Christ, yes. Like, absolutely. Like, you could even have, like, some sort of OBS software or whatnot, like, showing the individual timers. Oh, it would be huge. This may be the part where we say trademark, because...
Dibs, guys. Dibs. We've already got this one.
Dibs,
I think
dibs.
we found where we're going to expand our brand, Derek.
Oh, man. Oh.
No ice challenge for us.
No. 10-minute time limit per conversation. Maximum dunkage conversations. I like it. We'll workshop the name. I'm not confident that we hit it on the first try, but we'll get there.
We'll call it Burning Down the House, maybe.
I can get behind that. I mean, it might be a little bit ethereal for what we're trying to accomplish, but like I said, we can workshop it. We don't have to come up with it right now. We called dibs. We got time on the idea. Dibs is legally binding, by the way. All right, Frank, you want to punch the clock?
No, Derek, I don't, because I don't have a job.
I'll clock out, and then I'll meet you in the parking lot with those natty ices.
All right. I mean, we could go to the bar, but you're gonna have to buy.
We'll go.
But I'll get you back later.
Can we go to one of those college bars that have like the cheap well drinks? I think we can get.
Oh yeah.
We can get good and rightly fucked up on those.
$2 wells is where it's at.
Gonna make me cry. All right, thank you so much for listening to the show. If you'd like to support us, you can buy us a coffee or two at bit.ly/WLIKOFI. That's WLI Coffee. You can also visit our merch store at bit.ly/WLI merch. If you have any questions you'd like for us to answer on air, send them to questions@WLIcast.com. You can visit us on Facebook at facebook.com/WLIcast or on Twitter at WLImbalance and use the hashtag WLIcast.
This has been the Work-Life Imbalance Podcast. I'm some guy.
I'm the other guy.
And with that, I think we're going to have to transfer you. Have you heard the haint again through my audio equipment?
Not since we started talking again.
All right. Maybe I got exercised to that particular demon.
Yeah, we called the Haint Busters.